Welcome to the Thought Snob Podcast. I'm Paula Swope. Let's get snobby. Today's episode is about how emotional discipline and emotional intelligence are what it's really about, not spirituality or religion. Inner work is not something that's packaged, and it sure as hell isn't a one-size-fits-all. I am so done with these labels and titles that carry negative connotations because of deceptive serpents. This is on everyone's radar more than ever because of the recent scandal with Deepak Chopra and his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. The labels I'm talking about are the words religion and spirituality. I do not believe that all leaders in this space are deceptive serpents like Deepak, but I am raising an eyebrow as to why some of our heavy hitters haven't said anything about this. Now, as I record this, let's see, today is February the 21st. The last I looked, and if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. But the last I looked, Gabby Bernstein, Oprah Winfrey, Joe Dispenza, and many others who have worked with Deepak, well, they're silent. It's like crickets are chirping. Why is that? Why aren't they saying anything? It makes everybody look worse. People say spirituality is corrupt. No, it's not. Human beings are. Don't get the two confused. And don't make the authentic, innocent people pay for mistakes that the deceptive serpents have made, okay? Now, somehow, somewhere, spirituality became associated with something, I don't know, mysterious and underhanded. And then, here in America, religion became associated with only Christianity. And if you aren't a so-called Christian, well, then you're just wrong. That's not remotely accurate because here's what it's really about. Emotional intelligence, emotional discipline. These spiritual leaders should have never had the word spiritual thrown into their titles and their branding. It should have stayed within the self-help space because emotional intelligence is a universal concept that really has nothing to do with spiritual or religious beliefs. And what I'm about to say might challenge a few people, but I don't know anyone who became great inside their comfort zone. So let's just jump right straight out of that. Now what I'm talking about here is what it takes to live the best life possible. And it's not crystals. It's not affirmations. It's not how many retreats you've attended. It's not how many books you've read. It's your ability to manage your emotions so that no one controls you or has power over you. That's the key. That's it. If it takes crystals, affirmations, retreats, life coaching sessions, books, whatever it takes to get you there, we'll invest in it. That investment will come back to you tenfold. You're not investing in snake oil. You're investing in yourself, and your spiritual and/or religious beliefs really have nothing to do with this. Someone commented on one of my videos and said, well, awakening shouldn't be sold. Everything people are searching for is already within them. Well, that comment caught my attention. And honestly, hell, I agree with that. We do have everything within us, but some of us can't find it. And I was one of those people. And thank God, Wayne Dyer came along, and he helped me access my power. And I don't see my awakening as a product or something I bought. I see it as an investment, the best investment I ever made, and I'd do it again and I would pay more. All the Birkins and Ferraris in the world are not worth what awakening gives you. Awakening brings emotional intelligence, and you cannot put a price tag on that. Sometimes you need a wiser person to show you the way. This doesn't come naturally to everyone. It certainly didn't for me. Now, here's the problem. We're living in a time where everyone calls themselves healed or awakened, but they're still reactive, defensive, chaotic, judgmental, and dysregulated. Awakening isn't widely understood is what I'm seeing. I mean, it's trendy. And when something becomes trendy, okay, that's not spirituality. That's branding, because spirituality is timeless. It stands the test of time. Real growth shows up in how quickly you regulate yourself when you're triggered. It shows up in whether you escalate conflict or de-escalate it. It shows up in whether you can sit with discomfort without exploding, blaming, or running. When you have the opportunity to choose between being right and being peaceful, what do you choose? Do you hold grudges and fantasize about revenge? Or do you forgive? If you choose peace and you forgive, that's emotional intelligence. That's wisdom. Now, you can associate that with religion, spirituality, call it what you want. But what it really is an emotionally disciplined badass who's done the work. If you've been conditioned, as I was, your entire life to react, to worry, to live in fear, to doubt yourself, to be jealous and resentful of people who have more than you, whatever the case may be, you probably need a skilled, credentialed person to show you the way. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's comparable to seeing a therapist. So why has this work become so trendy and spiritual? And if you're listening, I'm using air quotes around that word, spiritual. I don't want you to miss the boat on this because of deceptive people who cashed in on people's need to be happy. Deepak Chopra turned out to be the worst kind of leader, but that doesn't mean his teachings were worthless. Karma will hit him 10 times harder because he put up a front for so long with millions of people. He hurt millions of people. But his teachings aren't him. So if you're like me and you followed his work, show yourself some compassion. We were all fooled. Because the reason we followed him in the first place was because we were seeking guidance from someone who was supposed to be an expert in self-help. Think about it like this. If you want a facelift, you go to a board-certified plastic surgeon, not your neighbor who's a banker, okay? If you want to renovate your house, you call a contractor and maybe an interior designer. It's the same with self-help. You want to be better, you call a credentialed self-help expert. No one views interior designers as dirty, so be careful with the labels. There are people in the self-help space who are authentic and who are in the business for the right reasons, and I am one of those people. I'm always talking about karma and forgiveness and alignment because those lead to a higher quality of life. All three of those require one thing: emotional discipline. You do the work, you do your due diligence, you become an emotionally intelligent person, and that's when you can consciously create whatever you want. This isn't woo-woo, and there isn't an easy way to get there either. You cannot create good karma if you're constantly reacting from ego. You can't forgive if you're addicted to outrage. You can't stay aligned if your mind is running wild all the time. Emotional discipline doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means feeling them without letting them control you. There's a massive difference. If someone criticizes you and you spiral for 3 days, your emotions are in charge. If someone wrongs you and you obsess over revenge, that's not strength. I used to think I was, a badass because I got revenge. No, I was a dumbass. I was immature and unaware, uninformed, and my subconscious beliefs controlled my behaviors. That's not spirituality or religion. That's freaking science. It's your mind and body. It's your physiology. It's how things work. Operating without emotional intelligence, it'll ruin your life eventually. I mean, you'll create chaos, and then, you'll wonder why everything feels so hard. When you awaken, you realize that you're actually in control of your life. And the lever that activates, that control, I mean, it's managing your emotions, not reacting to every little thing that happens. That's awakening. Does that sound like a product to you? No, it's not a product. It's a byproduct of a lot of hard work and due diligence. But I feel safe in saying most people need someone skilled and trained to help facilitate that process. This work is hard. It took me a really long time. And without Wayne Dyer and other teachers, I wouldn't have made it. And here's the truth: most people really don't want to hear or maybe accept, because, being emotionally undisciplined, it feels good in the moment. A good rant feels good. Blaming feels good. Clapping back, feels powerful in the moment, but it's all in the moment. Long term, it creates chaos, and chaos is not enlightenment. It's actually the opposite. It's an energy that attracts more chaos. So emotionally disciplined people, we live in the present. Reactive people live in the past and the future, replaying what happened and rehearsing, what they're going to do about it. Rarely present. When you're mindful and aware, you make decisions that set you up for peace. Does it require religion or spirituality? Not necessarily. But stop judging people for using those frameworks. Those words mean something different to each person. In my younger years, young Paula, I didn't have religion or spirituality in my life, but I believed in God. I believed in a higher power. I just had it all confused. I had praying mixed up with begging. I would cry and beg God, to fix my life. And, just while taking zero action, I did the same things over and over again and expected a different result. And then I had the audacity to get mad at God when nothing changed. And when I discovered spiritual practices that actually helped me regulate and grow, religious people accused me of not believing in Jesus. Now, come on. This isn't about labels. It's about how well you manage your emotions. And here's the truth: I absolutely believe in God and Jesus, but you don't have to develop emotional intelligence. You don't. And frankly, I'm not sure why so many people care about what others believe in anyway. I don't care what you believe in. I do not give a shit. I care about how you treat me. That's it. If I hear someone say they don't believe in God, now I'm confused by that, but I don't care. I respect that they have their reasons, and I'll go on about my business because I'm worried about myself, okay? After doing the inner work I needed to do, if I feel, triggered now, that's my cue to regulate. And, I avoid rushing at all costs, because rushing knocks me out of alignment quicker than anything. And if I feel angry, instead of reacting, I'll ask myself some questions. I'll ask, what's this really about? And will this matter in 5 years? The answers to those 2 questions tell me if it's worth my energy to even be angry. Being angry takes a lot out of me, and I'm very aware of that. We spiritual people don't hand out our energy like bologna sandwiches at a picnic. We're pretty stingy with our energy. But that's not really spirituality either. That's emotional discipline, and discipline creates freedom. The most powerful people in any room are not the loudest, they're not the most dramatic, they're not the most reactive or the most entertaining. They're the calmest. They're centered. They choose when to speak. They listen. They choose when to disengage, and they don't make a spectacle out of it. And they don't leak energy everywhere. That's emotional discipline in real life. And if you're questioning the character or the integrity of a spiritual person, again, spiritual is in air quotes here, check your energy around them. How do you feel? If they're the real deal, you'll feel safe, calm, you'll feel better, relieved. If you don't feel that way, Find someone else to follow. There are plenty of us out there. So I want you to ponder these questions over the next few days. When something isn't going your way, when something doesn't go your way, who's in charge? Are you in charge? Or are your emotions running the show? Because if your emotions are in charge, you're not free. And real spirituality, if we're going to use that word in the right context, is about freedom. Freedom from impulsive reactions. Freedom from revenge, from wanting revenge. Freedom from needing validation. Freedom from chaos. If you want to evolve, start with emotional discipline and work your way up to emotional intelligence. This is not about what you post or what you own or what you label yourself as spiritual or religious or whatever. This is about your nervous system, your reactions, and your level of self-discipline. How bad do you want a better life? Because it doesn't matter how many times you go to church or how many spiritual retreats you attend if you don't practice self-discipline. So if it's all about self-discipline, how in the hell did spirituality and religion get thrown into this in the first place? Some people aren't ready for that conversation or to admit that, but you are. Otherwise, you wouldn't have listened to me run my mouth this long. And I appreciate you for it. Thank you for being here with me again, and I'll see you next week.
The Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope has been brought to you by Thought Snob Media in association with Special Purpose Studios. All production, mixing, and sound engineering by me, Will Swope. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please take a few seconds to give us 5 stars and leave a review. See you on the next Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope.